Okay. So on behalf of organizing committee, let me welcome you in the faculty development program FDPI 2020 organized by Department of Electrical Engineering and sponsor NIT Durgapur and sponsored by AICT Training and Learning Academy. Dr. Singh has received a PhD degree from IIT Bhubanesh, Indian Institute of Technology. Previously, it was Banaras Hindu University. He is currently a scientist in NPCIL BARC, Department of Atomic Energy, Government of India, since 17 years. And his distinction of working on pressurized heavy water reactors and light water reactors. He is an his assignment over the years range from design, development, testing, uh, and research and site validation of the safety critical computer-based system of Indian nuclear power plants. He has published several research papers in journals of high impact factor like IEEE transaction, IEEE computer, ACM, Elsevier, quality and reliability, international, etc. He has been invited for chief guest, keynote speeches, session chair, and talks in many international conferences, short-term courses, workshops, and faculty development programs from many IITs, NITs, and other institutions of national importance. He is recipient of many awards like Publication Award, Group Achievement Award, etc. He is a reviewer of several SCA indexed journals of high impact factor. He is a life member of Indian Nuclear Society and also editorial board member, editorial board of many reputed journals and guest lead editor of many special issues. He is supervising many PhD students of different IITs, NITs, and PhD thesis examiner of IITs, NITs, and other reputed institutes. He is an expert member of Industrial Policy Formation of IIT Rupar, BUS of many autonomous institutes, and a member on the advisory board of many institutes and universities. He is a reviewer and project collaborator of research proposal of Board of Research in Nuclear Sciences. He is also a faculty of Nuclear Training Center, Department of Atomic Energy, Government of India. He is interfacing with other countries like Russia, USA, France, etc. for importing nuclear reactors that are based on new technologies. His research interests are in the area of reliability, safety, and security of safety critical computer-based systems. So far, he has completed 33 projects of Department of Atomic Energy, uh, Government of India. So now I request Professor Dr. Lalit Kumar Singh to share his screen and start. And we also requested to start his presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Bhavnik, for introduction. Before I start my introduction, I would only like to request, because this lecture is getting recorded, so only I want to request, like, don't put in the public forum, as DRDO, BARC, and ISRO, these are the very confidential departments. So yeah, so to start with, let me share my presentation. Yeah, is it visible to everybody?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be talking on the research scope in nuclear energy, and basically it is a green energy. Green energy in the sense, if you see, there are various sources of energies. maybe that energy may get produced from coal, or that may be like thermal energy or hydro energy. And this nuclear energy here, you will not get, you will not find any pollution. And that is the reason it is a kind of green energy, and it is a multidisciplinary, it really requires a multidisciplinary approach. And the experts from multidisciplinary areas are required. That includes all the basic sciences like physics, chemistry, mathematics, because we are dealing with the atoms, and how would be the behavior of the atoms. And so all those things will be taken care by the physics person, physicist, and like chemistry person. How the flow of like liquid, and how the to maintain the pH value of the various liquids, what is the concentration and all. And the mathematics plays a very important role to do the mathematical modeling, and deriving various equations to know the insights of of the systems that are basically required for the overall production of the nuclear energy. And similarly, in the engineering domain, almost all kind of the engineers or the scientists from almost every engineering domain are required. Like if you see the computer engineers or computer scientists, they are basically required for the development of the computer based systems, and the related platforms, for example, development of the operating system, because it is a very safety critical systems. It consists of lot of safety critical systems, and the characteristics of the safety critical systems are when the failure of such system can lead to the catastrophic disasters. Even it can lead to the loss of human life. So it is always important, like if I'm using the third party tool, I will have to understand the each and every internal working mechanism of that particular tool. And generally nowadays, like the tools are black box in nature, and we really don't know how, what is the behavior inside that tool. So definitely the people, they are engaged in developing their own operating system, their own embedded systems, compilers. So for that, the computer scientists are required. In the same way, like the electronics engineer for development of the various boards, analog cards, input cards, digital inputs card, digital output card, relay output module. These are the and how to design the circuits of related to the various processes and systems. uh, if you see, the civil engineers are required to make the containment or the building of the nuclear power plants, in which especially where the nuclear reactions are going on. And because those reactions after the end product of those reactions are the radioactive element, and the radioactivity are very dangerous for the normal public. And hence how to design the containment or the building, so that like in case of any failure, the radioactivity can be contained inside that particular building. So all I mean to say, like there is a scope where of almost all the engineers and the basic stream science analyst also. So let us see, like I will be particularly focusing on like what are the innovations or the challenges that are involved in designing and development of the systems of this nuclear power plant. So to start with, first let us understand what is the nuclear reactor. So nuclear reactor, basically it is a device that is designed to maintain the chain reaction. So what happens, we know like the nature of heavy nuclei, it automatically splits, or so when it automatically splits, such process is known as spontaneous fission. So when spontaneous fission takes place, we generally nuclear reactors, we use the uranium as a fuel, and uranium is a very heavy nuclei. So automatically the spontaneous fission takes place, in which neutrons in every reaction, in one reaction 2 to 3 neutron comes out, as well as some products, radioactive products, also created. And in one reaction almost 200 MeV amount of energy gets released. So huge amount of energy gets released. Now these 2 to 3 neutrons, again each neutron will strike to the different uranium nuclei, and again it will undergo the fission reaction, and in every reaction almost 200 million electron volt of energy is released. So if we see like in this way, the amount of the energy keeps on increasing exponentially, because in every reaction 2 to 3 new neutrons gets created, and neutron population keeps on increasing exponentially, and those neutrons basically strikes the different uranium nuclei to produce more nuclear fission or reactions. And so all this huge amount of energy definitely has to be transformed into some electrical energy. There is a mechanism, we will see how we can do that, but ultimately then also we have to sustain the chain reaction, because such a huge amount of energy if keeps on increasing, it will be difficult to transform even. So there is a mechanism to sustain this chain reaction, and which basically the this nuclear reactor does. So it is designed to maintain this chain reaction, so that it can produce a steady flow of neutrons that are generated by the fission of this heavy nuclei. Or we can say like it is an apparatus in which the heat produced, as I said, in every reaction a huge amount of heat gets created due to nuclear fission chain reaction, and that heat basically is transformed into the electrical energy. How we transform it, that we will discuss shortly. And so this is now to fulfill the overall objective of this nuclear reactor. There are several systems uh, which are basically functioning in these nuclear reactors, and they are doing their own uh, like functions to for the fulfillment of the overall function of this nuclear reactor. Now let us understand the working mechanism of a typical nuclear reactor, and also let us see what are the various components of the nuclear reactor. So if you see in left hand side, there is a dome shaped concrete building. It is known as containment or confinement shell. In this uh, now in this in the left hand, if you see, it consists of two major components. In the left hand side, there's the rectangular box. This is known as reactor core, where actual uranium fuel is there and fission reactions takes place. So here a lot of energy gets accumulated. uh, if you see, uh, as I said, I have there should be some mechanism to sustain this chain reaction. So uh, there are rods. If you see, there is a hanging lines, 4 to 5 lines. These are basically rods, and these are the control rods, which are basically hanged from a mechanical clutch. And these control rods are generally from of cadmium, because cadmium has a good chemical property to absorb the neutrons. So whenever I want to decrease the neutron density, I will have to drop down these control rods into the reactor core, where the actual reactions are going on. So how many control rods needs to uh, design needs to put into the reactor, that totally depends on the size of that reactor, or what is the capacity of that reactor. So yeah, so now next, if you see, as I said here, lot of chemical reactions or this nuclear fission reaction is going on. So huge amount of heat energy gets accumulated, and definitely then we'll have to transfer that heat, that energy. So there is a coolant. Normal water can be used as a coolant, and if you see, there is a pipe which is connected to the mechanical pump. So from that, a simple cool water is flowing, and when this pipe is going, basically is passing through the internal core. So this water is touching with this huge heat energy that is produced into the reactor core. So almost the temperature is around 1000 degree. So that huge energy, this water gets very much hot, and that hot water comes into the different structure that is known as the steam generator. If you see in the right hand side, there is one more rectangular and curvy top. In the top side, there is a curvature. It is known as steam generator, and this steam generator, basically it has two logical parts. The upper part is uh, contains steam, and the lower part contains simple cold water. And when this hot water, which is coming through the pipe, uh, all the way uh, through the reactor core, when this water gets touches with the cold water that is already there into the steam generator, suddenly it converts into the steam, because almost this pipe, the water that is in the pipe, almost it has the temperature of 350, around 350 degree, and we know like the boiling temperature of water is 100 degree centigrade. So it suddenly converts into the steam, and because the steam is lighter, so it accumulates in the uh, upper part of this steam generator, and then so steam that steam basically goes to the steam turbine, where which is coupled to the electrical generator, and it drives this steam turbine. This steam drives the steam turbine, and which is coupled to the electrical generator to produce the electricity, which can be connected to the grid. Okay. Now, one more thing. So that is why it is known as a steam generator, because it generates the steam from this water. Now, coming back to this pipe which we were talking about, in which the very hot water was flowing. this is a closed loop basically, and if you see, uh, because it exchanges the heat to the into the steam generator, again it gets cooled down, and then cool water can again be pumped into the reactor core, and again it gets more hotter, and that more hot water again can be again will be flowed to the steam generator, and this loop keeps on going on for throughout the operational period of the nuclear reactor, and in this way the steam gets generated. Now there are some more important things which we really need to understand. Uh, this only few percent of the steam gets converted into the mechanical energy which can drive the electric generator. The rest of the steam are basically non-saturated steam which gets condensed. So it is a condenser where in which the cooling water is flowing from some other pipe, and uh, when we know when any hot thing touches with a cold surface, it basically condenses, right? And then that condensed water, so it converts into the water, and that water again have to pump into the steam generator. So this is the secondary loop that we are talking about. And as I said, in the condenser, the cool water is pumped. So from where that cool water comes? So there could be two sources. Either if we install our nuclear reactor near the uh, sea, or near the vast water sources, or if there is no sea, there is from the coastal areas uh, where we have to uh, like introduce a new concept of cooling tower, where the water keeps on cooling, and that cooling water can be pumped into this condenser for condensation of this steam. And in this way, like the entire mechanism works for generation of the nuclear reactor. So here we have seen some important components, uh, like the reactor core, steam generator, turbine, electrical generator, condenser. So these mechanical pumps, so many mechanical valves are also there, which have not been shown here. That has to be operated as per the system requirements. Uh, if you see, so these components are diversified in nature. For example, if I say mechanical pump, where the scientists or engineers from mechanical engineers have to play an important role. How to design the pump, what should be the capacity of the pump, and there are thousands of pumps in this nuclear reactors, and every pump has a different uh, capacity. Understanding the requirements of the entire process, what should be the capacity of the pump that needs to be installed in that particular area. So that is the job of the like mechanical engineer. Now, how to design the steam generator? It all depends on the capacity, or the heat that is coming uh, from this reactor core. So the size of the steam generator depends on how much heat we have to transfer, because then accordingly we have to, you know, put the uh, cold water into the steam. How much cold water we have to put into the steam, it all depends how much energy we need to transfer basically. So then there is a clutch, mechanical clutch, which is basically operated by from the electronic relays. And so definitely the job of the electronics engineer comes into uh, the job of the electronics engineer comes into the role. And then if you see these two important components, that is reactor core and the steam generator, these are confined in a very concrete shell. It is known as basically containment that I was talking about. And to design the containment is a job of the civil engineers or civil scientists, who basically see like what should be the geometry of the containment. And as and when we keeps on getting the experience, the worldwide experience or the national experience, we keep on refining our design for all these components. So in this way, so this is the overall mechanism of this, and what are the various important components of the nuclear reactor that they have discussed. Now let us try to understand each and every component thoroughly, so that we can appreciate like what could be the how more innovations can be done with respect to design of that particular component, or what are the various innovations that has been already created by the various nuclear industries for more efficiency. So if you see the pressure vessel or the reactor core where the reactions are taking place, you see like almost 3000 to 4000 degree centigrade temperature is there inside that. So you have to uh, contain so much high temperature into some containment or into that nuclear reactor core. So you have to think like about the materials, which kind of materials you can use so that it can hold such a huge temperature. So basically this pressure vessel or pressure tubes depends on like pressure vessel and pressure tubes are a different concept, depends on the kind of the nuclear reactor that you are interested to build in. But if you are talking we will talk about like what are the types of the nuclear reactors later on, and what are the differences among those nuclear reactors. But for this slide, this pressure vessel basically contains that inside this all the reactions takes place, and it contains such a huge temperature. So it is usually made of a robust steel, and which contains the reactor core and the coolant. And there is one more component known as moderator. Now moderator is very important, coming back to the original slide which I forgot to tell. uh, when after every reaction the neutrons, I said the neutron gets created, but those neutrons are fast neutrons, and fast neutrons, uh, the possibility is very high that fast neutron escape outside this containment zone, and it miss the hit, or it fails to hit the uranium nucleus. And when it fails to hit the uranium nucleus, the energy cannot produce because the fission reaction will not take place. That is why we have to thermalize the neutrons, and the job of thermalizing the neutrons is done by moderator. So moderator basically thermalize the neutrons, it reduces the energy of those neutrons so that it will be suitable to hit to the nuclear this uranium nucleus to increase the chain or to sustain the chain reaction. So so definitely considering all like the moderator and coolant, so that rusting and all should not take place, the pressure vessel has to be designed in very important, like very carefully. So it may be a series of tubes also which can hold the fuel and conveying the coolant to the surrounding moderator, because if it is containing the fuel, if fuel gets failed, the radioactive containment, the radioactive elements can come out from this boundary, and definitely like the breaching of one boundary will take place, and it will increase the probability of exposing this nuclear radioactivity to the public. So definitely the more emphasis has to be given, like how to design the pressure vessel, what should be the structure of the pressure vessel, and considering all the temperature and pressure conditions that that it is going to uh, face, it is going to confront throughout the operation of the nuclear reactor. Now coming to the reactor core, which is also very important, because here we have to this is basically fuel, and how in the fuel the reactions takes place. So as I said, if you see in this rectangular boundary, the innermost rectangle contains so many fuel rods, and like 4 fuel rods, and sorry, there are the 3 fuel rods, and uh, in because here the reactions are taking place, and the fast neutrons are emerging here, and there is a moderator. You can see there are the 4, we have shown the moderator. A moderator, basically it is a liquid which is flowing through the pipes. So these are the 4 pipes. Basically I have only shown the segment of that pipe, which is used to thermalize the neutrons for heating. And there are the control rods which are hanging to the mechanical clutch. We have shown the 3 control rods so that it can absorb the neutrons if we want to reduce the neutron population. So as we have seen, that coolant is flowing into the pipe, and it is going through this reactor core or the fuel, and from where it transforms the heat, and it is going to the heat exchanger or steam generator. Both are same. And then next one, you see there is a middle rectangle. It is known as the pressure vessel, and inside the pressure vessel, in the inner side, there is a reflector. Why reflector is there? Because even we are using the moderator, but it may be possible like 10% of the neutrons may escape and will try to escape the boundary of this pressure vessel. So there is a reflector. When it strikes to the reflector, it will again go back. Those neutrons will again go back to the nuclear core to for the chain reaction. So in this way we are optimizing the entire mechanism, and we are like ensure like no loss of neutrons are taking place. And
Hello?
yeah, hello,
Yes, sir.
yeah, any you wanted to interrupt me? Yeah. So and there is, if you see like in the outer boundary, there is the control shielding. So where there is the shielding is there, and this the entire geometry is known as the reactor. So basically it contains the fuel elements, the control rods, the coolant, the moderator, and design of the fuel elements is very important. How to design the fuel element so that it can go into the fuel rod, and because we have to do the refueling also, so taking out the fuel rods and all those mechanism has to be smooth, and so in that way we have to design each and every components. And the cores generally have the shape of right circular cylinders with generally diameters that ranges from 0.5 to 15 meters. Okay. Then the reflector, as I said, it is placed around the core to reflect back some of the neutrons that leak out from the core surface. So what kind of reflector we have to uh, make, what should be the properties of the reflector, that is the job of the chemical engineer or the chemistry person. And the fuel is a very important, it is a main core of any nuclear reactor, and it is generally the uranium 235, and it is a basic fuel. So usually it is a pellets of uranium oxide that are arranged in tubes in the form of fuel rods. So how to design the fuel rods, what should be the shape and what should be the geometry of the fuel rods, that really have to think. And then coming to the control rods, as I said, control rods are hanged from the control rod drive, and this is basically a mechanical clutch which can be operated by the electronic relays. So how, what should be the geometry of the control rods? And for example, I said cadmium has a good property of to absorb the neutrons, but cadmium has one drawback, it becomes very brittle after some years, and then it automatically gets cracked. So it is very difficult like to handle such kind of rods. So researchers started you know researching more and more kind of substance that can be used as a control rod. So calorinium, for example, it has a very good property and it has a longevity also. So in this way, like there is a lot of scope for designing like what kind of control rods, what should be the material that should be used for designing the control rods, what is a fuel rod, and like how much circulation, because if you see, this is the reactor pressure vessel, and inside this there is a circulating cooling fluid, as I when I shown in the first slide. The cooling water is going inside and hot water is going outside. So we have to design like the inlet and outlet diameter in such a way depending on the size of the nuclear reactor. So it really requires a lot of research and years of the research to come out with a workable model. So and as I said, the control rods, basically the main function is to slow down the rate of reaction to a controllable limit. Otherwise, the chain reaction blows up like a nuclear bomb, and it can the control rod can be raised up or lowering down and allows the operator to control the rate of the nuclear reaction. Now coming to the moderator, uh, as I said, the moderator is used to thermalize the neutrons or to slow down the neutrons from high velocities and high energy level, so that the probability of neutron to hit the fuel rods increases. So generally, if you see the mainly the moderators that are used in different kind of reactors are simple water or heavy water, graphite, beryllium. So these are the like substance, so these are the chemicals that are used as a moderator. So we have to, there is a lot of research that is going on for designing for making a new kind of moderator for the efficient moderator, and to understand the chemical properties of the moderator and the neutrons. And the coolant, we know like coolant was used to remove the heat, that huge amount of heat that produced in the reactor, and that heat can be transferred to the water in a separate vessel, which can be converted into steam and runs the turbine. So mainly main coolant used was our water, simple water, then carbon dioxide, mercury, helium. These are the mainly these coolants are used. Now containment plays a very important role because it is confined the most radioactive components inside it, and the most radioactive components was First one where the nuclear reaction itself is going on, that is the reactor core or the pressure vessel, and second one is the steam generator, because it is directly coupled with the steam generator. So these two structures are confined into a containment. So what kind of structure should the containment have? That the researchers have to research, so that like ultimate goal of containing all the radioactivity inside the containment should be there. So generally uh, it contains the slightly negative pressure. Why negative pressure? Because the things can come from outside to inside, but nothing can go out from inside to outside. So the containment has a design so that it maintains a negative pressure inside this, so that no radioactivity can go out. So designing of the containment, it's a part of the civil engineers, which is designed to protect it from outside attacks also, and also for the if to contain the radioactivity in case of any serious malfunctions that happens inside. So it is typically 1 meter thick concrete and steel structure, and it contains the steel liners also, because steel liners has a very good property of not letting not let go out any of the radioactivity through it. Now, if you see in the nuclear the plants that are in India, so India planning is a huge increase in the nuclear power, and India is making nuclear power one of its key policy initiatives, with plans to build 48 new reactor and boost output to 63,000 megawatt by 2032, which is an almost 14-fold increase on the current levels. So the country's existing 20, as of now, 20 nuclear reactors are already existing, which are producing 4,700 megawatt of energy. Now, if you see this figure, uh, there are almost the nuclear reactors are uh, in every part of India, and or some in most of the part it is already they are already in operational phase, and somewhere they are in the construction phase, and some of the sites are proposed sites which have already been cleared by government of India. So the statistics are given here. In, for example, in the Rajasthan, it is operating. The red bullets are showing these are the operating plants which are already existing. And 1 into 100 means there is a 1 unit of 100 megawatt, 1 unit of 200 megawatt. Then 4 into 220 means 4 units of 220 megawatt. So total energy means 4 into 220 megawatt. In this way, Mahi Banswara, Kakrapara, that is in Gujarat. So in every place, it is mentioned like how many nuclear reactors are under operation, how many nuclear reactors are under construction, and how many nuclear reactors are proposed that have already been cleared by the government of India. So then, if you see, we can classify the nuclear reactors basically based on various categories, and that various category includes on the basis of the neutron energy, because as I said, the neutron energy key is whenever for example, if we are talking about the pressurized heavy water reactor, it is a one kind of reactor where the neutron energy to hit the uranium, we require the neutrons of less energy. So in this way, we can, but in the fast reactors, we want the fast neutrons. Basically, we want the we want high velocity neutrons. neutrons. Basis of neutron energy, we can classify it as the fast reactors or the thermal reactors. And fast reactor, uh, you must be knowing, in India now it is under construction in Kalpakkam, that is in Chennai, the fast breeder reactor. That is the world's first kind of reactor, and which is in the testing phase now. Already the prototype has already been tested and validated. That has been created by Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research, that also comes under Department of Atomic Energy. So now next, the nuclear reactor can also be classified on the basis of the fuel used. So if you see, like in the pressurized heavy water reactors, we use natural fuel uh, and enriched uranium, and that is why uh, the moderator or the we can use heavy water as a moderator. But the light water reactor, because light water reactor has a property of eating the neutrons, so definitely we want to produce more and more number of neutrons. So there we have to use the enriched uranium, because uranium has like three isotopes. U-238 is having in naturally 97 or 98% we are having U-238. Okay, so U-238 is not good for fission reaction. U-235 is very good for fission reaction, which is hardly 0.7%. So if we can enrich the uranium, so U-235 will become more, and more number of neutrons will be produced. So there we can use the light water, uh, because light water, if it eats the more number of neutrons, then also because we are having the enriched uranium as a fuel, more number of neutrons can be produced. So we can categorize on the basis of the fuel that we are using, and on the basis of moderator that we are using, we can categorize a reactor on this basis also, like water moderator. Somewhere we are using moderator as a water, some moderator as a heavy water, because water will eat the neutrons. Heavy water can thermalize the neutrons, it does not eat the neutrons. Graphite moderator for graphite kind type reactors, beryllium moderator, these are having different properties. And on the basis of the coolants also, we can classify the nuclear reactor, like water cooled reactor or gas cooled reactor, liquid metal cooled reactor, organic liquid cooled reactor. Now let us see the pressurized heavy water reactor or the pressurized water reactor. The funda was simple. It is a reactor vessel which is a vertical, where the actual reaction is taking place, and it is containing the control rod to control the chain reaction, and the liquid is flowing, and this is the hot liquid, which is the heat of which is getting exchanged with the steam generator, and here the pressurizer is there, which is basically to control the flow of the liquid. And there is a turbine which is basically driving the mechanical turbine, and which is coupled to the electrical generator, and that electrical generator produces electricity, and that electricity is connected to the grid, and then from the grid it is distributed to the consumers. So this is the pressurized water reactor. More or less the secondary side always remains same for all kind of nuclear reactors. Boiling water reactor. Now the main thing that we can see is why I'm discussing both two, so that I can let you know like what are all the technological challenges that are involved in both, and how the engineers really need to think about to fit to design the components that can fit in that particular kind of reactor. So in the boiling water reactor, this is the pressure vessel, and where the reaction is going on. Now here there is no steam generator. If you see the containment structure, there is no steam generator, and here only the steam is getting generated. So here the water is also there in the reactor vessel, which is directly producing steam. So this reactor vessel is basically performing two roles. One of the chain reaction that is going on, and second of the steam generator also, because here only the steam is getting generated, and that steam is directly going to the turbine, and rest of the mechanism is same. Okay, so here we have seen like there is no steam generator. Now what are the technological concerns here, and how what is the design concerns here? So if we look into the advantages of the boiling water reactor, because it does not contain the steam generator, definitely few number of mechanical components will be involved. For example, only 50% valves are required, as it was required for pressurized water reactor. 35% of the fewer pumps will be required. 80% less pipes will be required, mechanical pipes. 45% less seismic building volume required. 70% less cabin. So these are the I mean, with respect to the economy, it is very good to have the boiling water reactor, but definitely when we try to take the advantage of anything, the other thing starts, other negative thing starts also coming up. So the disadvantages is, as I said, because there is no steam generator and it is tightly coupled now turbine to the turbine. Earlier we were having two loops, two different loops. One loop was connecting the fuel to the steam generator. The second loop was connecting the steam generator to the turbine. Now these two loops have been merged. So directly the where the reaction is taking place, that is directly connecting with the turbine. So definitely there is a radioactive contamination in the turbine mechanism, and hence the safety precautions are needed, which can turn out to be very costly. So the safety analyst should be there. He have to understand each and every pros and cons of this, and accordingly he'll have to design each and every components so that it can cope up with this disadvantage of possibly of radioactive contamination in the turbine mechanism. And here the wasting of the steam will be more, so it will result into the lower thermal efficiency. So only 3 to 5% by mass can be converted to steam per pump. Now next we see here I have seen, so these are the very technological concerns or innovations are required in all these aspects. Now let us specifically, I will touch upon the computers or electronics domain. I have shown the control room of the nuclear power plant. If you see, control room is the nervous system of the nuclear power plant, because each and every system can be controlled from this control reaction, from this control room, and it contains the computer based systems, all the computer based systems that have been segregated into various categories depending on criticality of the safety perspectives. So if you see, in the control room there are the various terminals or various PCs, and every PC is dedicated to one particular system. So there are several systems. So here there so many graphical user interface are also there. So basically what is happening here, this operator is monitoring the health of that particular system. For example, this is a control engineer, and he is responsible for monitoring the healthiness of the reactor regulating system. Okay, so he know each and every insights of that particular systems, how many pumps are there, how many valves are there, what should be the statistics, what should be the working mechanism, each and every scientific knowledge he is having, and he is looking for that particular system, specifically whether his system is working fine in the nuclear reactor or not. So what is happening, the sensor, there is a sensor, electronic sensor, which is capturing the data from the field, probably temperature or pressure of particular component, or uh, uh, so these signals basically are the raw signals, and these signals may be analog signals or digital signals. For example, if I am interested in uh, looking out the level of a tank, definitely it is an analog parameters. And if I am interested whether my valve is open or closed, it is a digital parameter, because it is either 0 or 1. It has finite states. Analog means it has infinite states. So all those signals are captured in some cards, for example, analog input cards or digital input cards. So designing of analog input cards and digital input cards is a job of electronics engineers. And how the processing of those data, converting that raw data into the engineering data, is a job of mathematical modelist, because he have to map that. For example, I'm looking for the level of the tank. The level of the tank, there is a level transmitter, and level transmitter sends some level in the form of voltage, and that voltage I'm converting into the engineering unit. That's how much centimeter or meter in terms of that. So all that engineering conversion takes place by the model. So how to map the processes? For example, if I want to measure the um, temperature of a body, how I can map that temperature with respect to the mercury, so that it can be easily understood to the operator. So all those things has a very are very challenging, and it has to. So there are the embedded systems, because uh, those things should be captured in the real time, and even a delay of second can be very heavy, because the in case of malfunction, the operator has to take place. So operator can also actuate the actuator from here, from the control room, and those also will be the real time. So I mean, the full connection from the sensor to the embedded system to the display, then vice versa. It is a complete circuit has to work on, and here the computer scientists have to play the role in the designing of the operating system, in the designing of the real-time operating system which are used into the embedded systems, in the designing of graphical user interface, the software engineering, the compiler design. And because all those components are interconnected, because one data may be going to the other system, so all those connections are also there. How much data has to go there? How much data has to go there? So this includes the technological concerns, and for the if you see the image processing also plays a very important role. If you see the big screens, the wall screens, where the things has to be shown in the bigger size, so there the image processing plays a very important role. So the data science, the data have to analyze, the patterns of the data has to be analyzed. So there the artificial neural networks comes into the picture, where anybody is looking mm, for example, in the electronics engineers, he may look into like what kind of hand switches to be designed, or analog meters or digital meters to be designed, the clocks or the indicators, the electronic indicators, LED based indicators needs to be designed. So the switches, various switches to directly control the mechanical components in the field that needs to be designed. So all these things really plays a very important role, and we have to really think of how to design each and everything. Software engineering, for example, because everything has to be the software should have a very reliable software. So definitely we have to adopt the software engineering practices. What are the various standards that needs to be followed for designing that particular software system? So those also have a very technological challenge to understand all the existing standards and try to compare all the standards and follow a particular standard. So because every movement in the nuclear business has to through the regulators, and regulators are very strict regulators. There are the country regulators and the international regulators as well, because if you are dealing with the business of nuclear, it cannot confine to your own country, but it can confine to the other country as well. And because the consequences of exposure of radioactivity is very high, because the half-life of these radioactive elements ranges generally from few seconds to billion of years. So even the effect can remain for billion of years. You can see the effect of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The effect is still persisting over there. So many technological challenges in computer science and electronics are there. So this is the side view of this control room, where the screens are there also, and so many electronic switches are there, meters are there, digital meters, analog meters, alarm windows are there in case of any signal deviation. The alarm gets like on, so that the operator can come to an action. Okay, so if you see like the nuclear power plants in the commercial operation or operable, the main what are the reactor types, and uh, what are the countries that are uh, that are basically going for particular reactor type, depending on, and that totally depends on whether I do have expertise of that technology. Some country may be having expertise of different kind of reactor, nuclear reactors. So if you see the pressurized water reactors, the main countries that are uh, doing the business of pressurized water reactor are USA, France, Japan, Russia, China, South Korea, and almost 299 are JR that are producing 283 gigawatt, and the fuel that are used that is used is enriched uranium oxide, and the coolant that is being used is water, normal water, and moderator is also normal water. Similarly, there are other type of reactors also, like boiling water reactors, pressurized heavy water reactors, and we have given the statistics of what are the main countries that are going for that particular kind of reactor in their countries, depending on the expertise that they do have, and depending on the limitations of the government policies. So that is all about this I wanted to share. And basically I wanted to talk about this because it will contain the scope of engineers of every domain So the engineers of every domain will have a scope to work on, because it is this nuclear energy is a kind of multidisciplinary uh, approach, where the multidisciplinary knowledge is required to accomplish the overall objective of that nuclear energy. So if anybody is having any doubts or questions, I would be happy to answer all those questions.
Yes, participants are requested to ask questions. If anybody has any questions or any doubts or any sort of discussions they want to share, they can go ahead. Okay, sir, you have delivered a nice presentation. I would like to hear the fact that the moderator, you have shown different type of moderator, right?
Yes.
As the
Yes.
moderator are controlling the chain reaction, right, in the neutron. Now, I would like to hear that how it is actually sensing the chain reaction and the neutrons, how many neutrons are producing and how it is sensing actually. If you
So there is a neutron detectors are there. Basically, there is a SPNDs, self-powered neutron detectors, which is basically counting like how many neutron detectors, and there are in-core nuclear detectors and out-core nuclear detectors. So because the in-core nuclear detectors may have to sustain in the high temperature, because that has to be inside the nuclear reactor, and the outcore nuclear reactors are basically detecting how many neutrons that have been leaked. So these are the detectors which basically counts the number of neutrons, and based on that statistics, the this data gets propagated to the relevant person to take the necessary action.
If you kindly open that slide where you have shown some figure 7.7, right? If you kindly go to that.
Should I show the slide
yes,
again?
Yes, please. Yes, that slide only.
Yeah. Which one?
7.7, the figure where you have shown the inside reactor before that. Yes, this one. Yes, exactly.
This one?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, please tell me.
Here what I have understood, the moderator moderator means if it is different type of moderator you have shown, all are in closed conduit, I believe, isn't it?
See, different type of moderators are available, but for one kind of reactor only one moderator is there. That depends on what type of reactor you are dealing with. If we are talking about the light water reactors, the moderator will be the light water is used as a moderator. If you are talking about a pressurized heavy water reactor, probably the heavy water reactor used as a moderator, because I have already told the reason behind it, because there in case of pressurized heavy water reactor, the moderator basically there is not enriched uranium. So here I have to put a moderator which can only thermalize the neutrons and which cannot eat the neutron. We should not eat up the neutrons, because we are already lacking the neutrons and we'll have to increase the efficiency. So the type of the moderator will totally depend on the type of the reactor that you are dealing with. For example, if you see like the Russian reactor where a big disaster has taken place, RBMK type of reactor, they basically use the graphite as a moderator. But because the graphite was having a very sincere problem, uh, uh, basically because when we drop some graphite rods as a moderator, basically from the in the down, the surface area basically gets increases, and there the neutrons density becomes very less, and because of this the physics calculations gets disturbed, and that was one of the reason. Because of this graphite rods, the accident accident has taken place. RBMK, it was a very severe accident of in the range of 5 something. So depending on the moderator, for example, if you see in this figure, here the moderator is liquid.
Yes.
And liquid, and what is happening, this liquid is basically flowing into the fuel rods. See, there are the 3 fuel rods, if you are saying, right? And inside, and there are the 4 moderator rods are there, 4 mechanical pipes are there. I have shown only the
are these fuel rod drawn on the liquid?
No, it is not drawn. It is it is flowing inside the
conduit, right?
It is flowing inside the pipe. Okay. Yeah. So when the moderator is flowing inside the pipe, so any neutrons will strike, then it will thermalize the neutron. There is no, I mean, it is just a liquid which is flowing inside the tube. So there are the 4 tubes.
In order to control, so are you controlling the flow of the liquid through this?
We can control the flow of the liquid of moderator. We can control by the control rods, through control rods. If we want to eat up more neutrons, we have to put down the control rods down. If we want to increase the population density of the neutrons, we can pick all the control rods. So these are the controlling mechanism. There is not only one controlling mechanism. Yes, there are various controlling mechanisms.
Yes. Okay. Now another thing is slightly different. Say the renewable energy we are talking about, they are green energy, right? Now this what nuclear energy that you are telling that this is also green energy. It is also called.
Yes.
But the hazards involved in nuclear energy, right? Because of its leakage and other issues like that, you have also said we are also facing. We have also seen, right, in Japan also some disasters happened, right?
2011 Fukushima accident in Japan. So, yes, that was a scale of 7.
Yes. So those, because of those hazards, are we really meaning the actual green? Is it really green in that sense?
Yeah, it is a green energy. Only the thing is, like I tell you, for example, if you use a pressure cooker, okay, yes, and if you are for example non-ISI marked pressure cookers, you might have seen like the pressure cooker got it has damaged so many lives, okay, because of the bursting that has taken place. So it all related, it is all technological concerns. For example, if you are saying the domestic cylinder, okay, the domestic cylinder is also a green, it is not polluted. But if the domestic cylinder gets burst, it will damage your life. So ultimately this is the technological concerns. If you are telling about the Fukushima accident, that has happened to the natural disaster basically, and natural disasters means when, see, everything you based on your previous data, based on your past experiences, and you keep on improving your design, right? For example, when I want to install any nuclear reactor, I will see the seismic condition, where any seismic condition have not occurred for the past 100 years or 150 years, right? If I have said, okay, no seismic hazard has taken place, then I can decide to install the reactor. But it may happen, you don't know the natural disaster, it may happen after 50 years seismic condition occurs there, and such a high seismic condition which you have not postulated, although you have kept a sufficient margin. A natural disaster which you are going to confront after 50 years down the line, that may be so hazardous that it was beyond your postulation as well. Okay. So it is totally I mean, it is a technological, not also technological concern, because if you see the nuclear accidents, all the nuclear accident has happened because of these kind of disasters, or for example, the 3 Mile Island, there was a technological concern, because in the graphical user interface, uh, it was not able to show the exact status of the level of the water into the steam generator. It was showing steam generator has sufficient water, while steam generator was not having water. So where it got cooled down, it could have cooled down the reactor. It failed to cool down the reactor. When it failed to cool down the reactor, the fuel failure happened because of the temperature conditions. So that is the reason. From there, the people have learned how to go for the redundancy. We are not only relying from one indicator. We cannot rely only from one sensor. The triplicated sensor logics comes into the place, right? So these are the technological advancement which keeps on changing up. It is not related to the green energy or something like. Accident could be because of the technological concerns, or because of the you have not postulated in the way like you are dealing with. For example, if you see the software, no software in the world is bug free. Why? Because you cannot create the 100% test cases which can cover the 100% coverage of your code. If it could have been happened, the aeroplane crash could not have been there, right? So
Correct,
failure,
correct.
yeah. So this is
I
not
mean,
related to the
actually,
green.
my view is that the impact of the failure is huge.
Impact of the failure is always huge. For example, I tell you, see one example of software, and that is in your automobile sector. You say one software, for example, Hyundai is design one software, and in his car, Hyundai car is almost around the world. If that software fails on a particular scenario, so many lives will be affected across the world. The impact will be severe there also. I mean, so these all are the safety critical systems. Definitely, yes. Nuclear has a very severe effect. That is the reason we do have a very strict regulators. We are having in nuclear business, only country is not having autonomy power to decide anything about its to increase or decrease the nuclear business. The International Atomic Energy Agency or the international regulators are there, who basically have to be, the country has to take them into the confidence and then make a move. So for each and every move, for each and every design change, we have to the regulators, we have to convince the regulator. Each and every design is consists of a deep analysis, consists of a lot of testing, consists of a lot of international standards, lot of knowledge. So all those things are basically are in continuation, and these things are improving.
Okay. And you have shown the amount, the present availability of 4700 megawatt. Is it like
Megawatt
4700
4780
megawatt, and you would like to increase it 6200 megawatt?
gigawatt by 2032, right? That is a government of India directive.
Okay, from megabyte to gigabyte.
Yes, megawatt to gigawatt, right?
Megawatt to gigawatt by 2032.
2032, yeah. There are, if you see the map, you could see like how many nuclear reactors are under constructions, and because as of now, the reactors that are under operation, almost 2 to 3 times the reactors that are under constructions, and almost 2 to 3 times the reactors that have already been sanctioned by the government of India.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a small question. India, apart from uranium 235, any other reactors are used?
Pardon, can you repeat? I'm not able to listen. Yeah.
In India, apart from uranium 235, any others are used?
Any?
Any other? apart from uranium, any other material?
Yeah, there are so many different kind of reactors where the fuels can be used as a uranium, as a plutonium, like these some blankets and all other fuels. You can see into the Google, you will find like where what are the heavy nuclei and from where the huge. Ultimately, what you have to go for the nuclear fusion. Even there are the nuclear fusion reactors that are going to come up. That is ITER. You can Google it. ITER in there are some countries, I think 5 or 6 countries are involved in ITER, where the fusion reactors are going to establish. So there, the different kind of nuclear reactors are different kind of nuclear fuel is basically being used.
Sir,
And
the
that is
can
also
we use
that
hydrogen
is
as a
and
also
reactor?
a scope of research
Hello,
basically. You can, yeah.
surface, the
sir.
condenser, which type of condenser in a nuclear reactor? What are the
Pardon?
condenser, which type of condenser?
Which type of condenser, that totally depends. Ultimately, the role of the condenser is we have to condensate the steam, and that steam basically it is a non-saturated steam that is coming out from the turbine, because when that saturated steam, only the saturated steam turns up into the mechanical like energy, and rest of the steam basically will have to that is a non-saturated steam, we have to condense it, and then we'll have to go back. And I think if you really want to go for the condenser, probably you can go for the Google, because the mechanical engineer may be more like appropriate person, like what
Okay,
are the kind
okay,
of the
okay,
condensers. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. But
Thank you.
Hello,
nicely
sir.
presented, all were well articulated. Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
hello. Hello.
Yes, yes, you are audible. Tell me, tell us.
Sir, I have question, sir. Hello.
So Lalit Singh, please. Dr. Lalit Singh.
Hello.
Your question to Lalit Singh or to the organizer?
Lalit Singh, sir.
So he has left. Hopefully, I think
Okay, okay, sir.
internet
No
connection.
problem.
Maybe just 1 minute.
Okay, sir. It's okay.
Dr. Singh. Dr. Singh, thank you for your cooperation and your nice presentation. Thank you once again from the part of participant NIT Durgapur and the Atal Academy in AICT, New Delhi. So Dr. Singh, please.